Hey everybody, welcome back to Deeper Dive. Jimmy Kell here, coming at you with the
Good
final
morning.
installment of this is our mom series, Money on Mission. And we're dealing with overflow, which is most people have no idea what that even is because we don't live that way. And I don't think we're taught to live that way. So I mean, I was writing a lot of notes. I mean, not so much documenting what you were saying, but what it was making me think about, James. And like I think the bigger issue that's like God is we're not I don't think we even believe in overflow like in the American sensibility. Like there's you either make enough to survive or you save it. But savings and overflow aren't the same thing because savings is hoarded, essentially for another time is storing up nuts, right? And
Yeah.
then, or we just spend equivalently to what we make. And so it's a transfer in and out. You know what I mean? It's a wash at the end of every month, which everybody complains about. But every time we get a raise, we tend to, change like our lifestyle. I enjoyed the video from the young family and the guy in the army where he's like, well, I started making pretty
That's
decent
right,
money and
baby. That's right,
I had
baby.
to have a truck and I have to
Lifestyle
have this. And
recipe, baby.
once you get a
Lifestyle
truck, then you have to
expense.
have this and you have to have that. And it's like, I got to have a boat. If I'm going to, have a truck, I got to have something to pull with it. And I mean, he didn't say boat, but that's what normally happens. Right. And then we find ourselves treading water. But I guess like the real issue is this is something we talk about in pretty much everything. The Western mentality is that consumer mentality. I mean, fundamentally speaking, when you're talking about overflow, even though there's obviously the spiritual nature of overflow, which is the point of this, it's a foreign concept to most of us because we're taught if you have extra and you have the um, discipline, save it.
Yeah. Well, and when we talk more about consumer abundance, consumer abundance. So the more abundance you have, the more you can consume,
Right.
right? And you might put some aside, but that can be fear based, and that's about me too, right? So consumer abundance is about me.
Yeah.
Saving can be about me. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody save is fear based, but savings is the whole mentality of savings and retirement and all of that kind of stuff is not very biblical because Jesus says to the guy who says, "Hey, I got it made now. My barns are filled. In other words, I got retirement. It's my 401k here. Now I can retire, eat, drink, and be merry." And Jesus says, "Thou fool, this very night your life will come to an end. And then what will happen with all your money?" So it seems
Right.
to be, Jesus seems to be espousing a mentality that says, "Hey, don't. There's nothing wrong with saving. There's nothing wrong with putting away for a rainy day because he speaks to that too. But it's this mentality that I can eat, drink, and be married. I don't have anything to worry about. I don't need to be used by God. I don't need to let the resources go from me into other people. I can just take care of me." And he seems to be speaking about that. So this consumer abundance versus overflow, when the whole metaphor, I didn't use, I was going to do this word picture on the stage. I decided not to do it. I decided to spend more time talking than doing it because I thought it was easier to have it to put in your mind. We all know what a cup full looks like when
Hmm.
you can't put anything else in it. And this idea that when it's for us, we can't put anything in it, right? Because it's going to spill over and we can see it as waste. But when we have other cups there, and we start to see our lives as disciplined, as money on mission, where God can pour into us, then God can pour more, and it splashes over, not just in money, but in whatever God is pouring into our life.
Right.
And and so for me, it's this living in overflow is not wealth prosperity gospel. When I did this, I wanted to be very careful that I didn't move into wealth prosperity gospel. This idea that if God's going to bless me and God's going to bless me, and then the wealth prosperity gospel talks about God blessing through me too.
Yeah, but it's a trap because it's
Yeah.
like if you do this, God has to give this
Yes.
back to you in
Yes.
some sort of
It's
multiplicative
it's
manner.
transactional.
Yeah, which
A
is
plus B
nonsense.
equals
So
C.
right.
And I think the new prosperity gospel begins to speak more like this idea that, okay, uh, maybe God will bless you in good relationship, maybe God will bless you in whatever, but I think this abundance, and from my perspective, these things build on each other. When you have vision, when you have budget, when you take care of margin, when you take care of debt, when you take care of large purchases, when you take care of all of these things, then the kind of lifestyle and mentality that you have allows you to put money on mission because you've done all the stuff. And interesting thing is, we don't say don't build margin. We don't say don't do investments.
Right.
We don't say don't do savings. We say do all of those things. But do those things from this perspective that at any moment God could say to you, I want you to bless this person. And because you're a steward and not an owner, you bless that person and you trust God to make up.
Well, I wonder sometimes if it's also, people they save and we do all those things, but if we're doing it in a way that says, well, if God doesn't come through for me this month, then I've got a hedge.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I think
it's
we do.
almost like, well, if God doesn't do that, then at least I planned ahead a little bit. And it's almost like there's a trust issue in that I feel like, is unspoken because most people would say, I don't save money because I don't trust God, but sometimes there's a desperation in it that does have an underlying lack of trust in it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that we would say we don't trust God,
Right. We
but
just act like it.
the whole mindset behind our savings in our world
Yeah.
is about and you'll hear this. I mean the companies they don't even hedge on it no anymore. Life insurance is about security.
Right.
Savings is about security. Investment is about security because everybody knows that fear-based marketing is the most successful marketing there is.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
I mean,
where you know, if you want to go to war, no matter who you are, it's a really good idea to say to folks, listen, this could happen. It's the reason why we stockpile ammunition. It's the reason
right.
why. It's kind of built throughout the interior of the Western world, but specifically the United States. This
Yeah.
fear-based thing, and so I think if you really trust God, if we really trust God, do all the stuff that God is calling us to do. But if He says, make this, make this, make this, do this, do this.
Mhm.
I talked to a guy Sunday who, after I got my Tesla, he got his Tesla, and he paid his off way faster than I'm going to pay mine off. All right, so he paid his off, and God told him sell the car, and he said God had just paid it off. He said sell the car and wait for instructions.
Mm.
I'm going to put the money on mission,
Well,
and he sold the car.
well,
I mean, he had dialed it up, he put a different steering wheel on it, the different wheels on it, and God said, "So the cost of the car," and he sold it, and he's just waiting for what God is going to tell him to do with that money.
what's that name again? I'm just kidding. I think I think that's another amazing story of somebody that's sensitive to the movement of God and
Mhm.
especially when it seems absurd, but the thing is like I was going to ask you about this the just in case mentality. A lot of people will kind of use that. I've heard that term a lot of times. Well, just in case. And I always want to just what is the completion of that sentence? Because it's
Mhm.
one that I've used plenty of times. It's like I've got when my we were moving my mom and dad out to Missouri. I had this giant box of zombie apocalypse stuff. Basically, it's like just in case,
Mhm.
and I got myself thinking like just in case of what? Just in case the
Mhm.
world falls apart, just in case the food supplies die out, just in case. And I started to realize for myself there was this inherent saying just in case God doesn't come through. You just in case and that's the other thing. It's like where we perceive this idea of like continuing a certain lifestyle versus God saying, hey, I will allow you to live, but our abundance is not guaranteed. Our comfort is not guaranteed. What we consider to be abundance, what we consider to be comfort. You know what I mean? And I think
Uh,
that's the thing. So let me just dovetail that into one more
well,
thing, and I'll just
let me
oh
say
go
this one
ahead.
thing. We grown up with it. God bless a child who has his own. I got to help God bless me.
Right.
And the just in case mentality. I had a guy who was a big time Christian live next to me. He was he was a marksman in the military, and his specialty was survivalist.
Mm,
And he had a basement full of stuff.
yeah.
So if the apocalypse ever went down, I would always say to him, "I'm coming to your place because
Yeah.
you got the goods. You know,
What's the
um,
password?
you got the goods." And you know the Latter Day Saints, they
Oh
have
yeah.
just in case factories all over the world.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
folks are going to make it,
Yeah. That's right.
and I think they would say, "Hey, this is good planning."
Yeah.
And
God gave us wisdom. It's a
yeah,
wisdom
it's
thing.
wisdom, it's good planning. Um, but what if God said, "Okay, I know you planned and you saved all this, but I want you to go give it away."
Well,
See, my
that's the
philosophy is
thing.
when people are starving
Yeah.
today, it
Yeah.
makes no sense for us to save up a whole bunch of the stuff for tomorrow.
It is wise, but it crosses the line when it's untouchable by
It
God's
could be
will.
wise. It could be wise because God wants to use it to
Well, that's what I'm
bless
saying.
somebody in the
It's
middle. Yeah.
wise to stockpile. It's wise to have those things, but it crosses the line into sin when God's will is like, no, but you can't touch that because
Yeah.
just in case. You know what I mean? And I think that's the point that you're making, which I love, is this idea. It's like, go ahead and do all those things. But when God says, hey, it's time to tap the reserves
Mhm.
because there's some people that need right now. Well, yeah, but it's not that bad. You know, I figured it out, they can figure it out,
Yeah.
and it crosses a terrible line.
Why should I help them when I've been studious and I bootstrapped it and they're lazy and they're not
Yeah.
doing anything? Why should I share? God, it would be bad stewardship of your resources for me to share things with people created in your image who and things are going bad right now.
Yeah.
It would just be bad resource. I'm gonna step on the hornet's net right now. I'm gonna
Oh,
just
I was
step
getting
on
ready
it.
to also, I because I saw one brewing.
I'm gonna step on the hornet's net. So I went to the Imagine Life gala the other day, and Imagine Life is choices. It's the Choices Center here in Fredericksburg for for families or women who find themselves with unwanted pregnancy. That's their terminology, not mine. And they had a
Right.
great speaker. He was by his own profession, he was a professional speaker. He was great. My problem can be with the movement. We celebrated two people who made a decision to not destroy life. And it was a great celebration. And one of the things I did in my mind is I put those people 10 years from now, when that kid is 10 years old and they still can't make any money and they still don't have jobs, what happens to that kid then? And then I begin
Right.
to say, and we and because we're cutting some things that were safety nets, not for the parents. Parents can work on their own, but the kids. And I think to myself sometimes, um, we, based on our own view of scripture, based on our own view, and sometimes there's a Western view, we would look at, let's take that kid, for example, and say, it's not my fault that kid's parents can't work.
Right.
Why should I keep on taking my good hard earned money and put it towards that kid? Their parents need to work harder. They need to. I mean, we come up with all kinds of reasons why. And my thing has been, I remember my pastor growing up, who's going to heaven really soon. I need to go visit him really soon. He's going to heaven really soon. I remember him saying, um, "I've saved this money and it's at God's disposal." And I saved it for our family, but it can be used for God's family. It's available to His use. I think that's living in overflow.
Yeah.
as opposed to living in a just in case mentality. I like that,
Yeah,
Kelly.
I mean, some of the things that you opened up there, I think like one of the issues that that conversation sparks in my mind is this idea of I don't know, man, we it comes back to a stewardship idea, I guess. I mean, because the biggest anathema to most of us, and I would speak to the people that you and I kind of hang out with, is redistributed wealth. Like, that's such a hot button right now. It's like, don't you tell me what I do with the money that I earn. You don't get to redistribute it and things. It's like I get that,
That's the ownership mentality, baby.
but we are saying that God gets to do that because it's His wealth and not ours, which I think has to stick in the craw because we shake our fist at the political people that say that, but then when we say that God says that, we're like, well, that's not exactly, that's not
Well,
exactly.
God, but God's smarter than the political people. You know
Yeah,
that,
and
right?
He would never ask me to share my hard-earned money with some bum, and I think I did find it interesting though that we some of the things that we celebrate, like you said, we're so short-sighted when it comes to holistically um embracing people. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? And embracing what's important in life. I mean, there's so much in that and it because like deep inside, I don't know about you, James, but I mean, I still deal with this sometimes. I just get offended by the expectation sometimes. It's like when people are like, well, you're a Christian, so I expect you, like, you're supposed to be generous.
Yeah.
It's like, man, don't tell me what I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's funny because I have to check that. There's just something inside of me that gets
Hmm.
offended by it. And yeah, I am supposed to be. And I think I am probably to a fault sometimes. But it's because I choose to be, not because someone expects me to be or tells me I have to be. But at the end of the day, the scripture really is telling us this is what I've commanded you to be. Like, I mean, the whole idea, like, the whole idea of what you're saying is being a conduit, not a bucket, right? Like, not a receptacle, but a conduit. And we want to be buckets,
Yeah.
and it's just against our nature. So that I think that sparks a conversation, James, with me about what nature is it touching against? Because
Yeah.
God's nature is a conduit nature. And
Yeah.
if it's railing against our nature, that means that the nature that it's touching on is not God's nature.
Yeah.
It's got to be something else.
Yeah. And we're talking day one, right? We're measuring from day one. My mom would always say, "Don't measure," and you know what I did. If my brother's pork chop looked bigger than mine, I was upset.
Yeah.
If he had more, because we didn't have juice growing up. We were poor. We had Kool-Aids. If his Kool-Aid cup was, if he had more Kool-Aid in his cup than I had in mine, we
Well,
measured. And so
Kool-Aid
that's
does
one of
taste
the things
better
that I
than
talk
juice.
about. Stop measuring, right? Because God has, according to the parable of the talents, God has apportioned according to our ability.
Yeah. Well,
And so,
apparently,
go ahead.
apparently there's an issue with that this is our sin nature and its desire for consumption and its desire
Mm-hmm.
for, to be satiated, which it never is.
Yeah,
And like that's the other thing. I mean, it's the I feel like the Bible is taught about black holes long before we discovered them scientifically because our sin nature is a black hole. It consumes everything
yep.
and it's never satiated. It's never full. And
You're the only person besides my wife that says that word satiated.
oh yeah, well,
Yeah, I like that
your
word.
your wife's intelligent. It
She
makes
is
sense.
intelligent.
I've always appreciated
I married up.
you did. She's the coolest.
Yeah.
I think she really is the coolest. If people have never met Rose, and you guys have done yourself a disservice. She's amazing. I think I don't know, James. I feel like we're dealing with the very nature. Um, it's so funny because like I'm not. I sound like I'm being overly dramatic, but I really believe this from the bottom of my blackened heart is that this money thing is the tip of the iceberg when it
Yeah.
comes to our our sin nature manipulating us and using abundance and saying, "Hey, God's blessed you. You better keep that." And, just to make sure. And, yeah, give your tithe and do that's okay. But that's enough. I mean, you're good. You're doing good. And it's like the screw tape letters. Like, hey, if you can't overtly take them from God, then get them complacent just doing enough.
Yeah. We're reading it in my book club right now.
Oh man, I mean,
Um, Again,
what I left a copy there. I mean, I'll just tell you, I left it. There's a copy of it on the bookcase that's annotated by his children.
yeah.
And so get that copy, but they actually wrote the notes from his notes when he wrote it. So in the
Okay.
margins are his notes
Oh,
about what he
yeah.
was thinking. It's amazing that's so great. And Chris, talking if you ever talk to Chris, she will Chris Barham, she will blow your mind. She's
Oh,
like
yeah, because she's an
she
expert.
yeah, she's the
I
world's
should
leading
call
expert on
her.
screw tape
I should
letters.
call her and get her to teach one of the chapters
Oh,
on
you should do it.
Zoom.
I don't
Because
know.
she's an expert at
I don't
that.
know anybody that knows that book better than her, and
You
I
know
mean that.
what? I'm gonna write that down, Kelly, because
Yeah,
I should actually get her
she's
to
the
do a
best.
chapter on it.
Nobody knows that book better than her. I guarantee it. And I know that book, but I would sit at her feet and listen to her talk about that for a year. In fact, when I come back, I'm planning a trip down there, and that's one of the things I want to talk to her about because I just reread it also. Let me switch lanes a little bit, James, and but this will still be the same thing. Here's what I find interesting. We know the term "a rising tide raises all ships," right?
Yeah.
And it's like we're constantly saying, God, if you bless me with more, I promise you to be faithful and make that available. But it's always more. God, if you give me more, I promise you I will faithfully give those things. I will make it available. It'll be at your beck and call. It's always more, more, more. Is it Am I crazy, or is it possible that God can also bless us with less and make us less needy for things? And here's my word
Yeah.
picture, and I'm going to throw it out to you. I used to watch the show about the crocodile hunters in
Hmm.
Louisiana, and I learned a lot because I've never been to the bayou personally, but I watching that show was great, and you learn a lot of things. But one of the things I learned is they use flat bottom boats, right? Because the water level is low.
Hmm.
And I started thinking, I was like, here's the problem. Like, all of us, we got this deep bottomed boat, this V bottomed boat, and we keep saying to God, you got to raise the water because I can't move around properly. I can't do what you want me to do. Give me more water. Instead, sometimes I feel like God's like, change the boat.
Yeah.
Like you're in the wrong boat. And so this idea of abundance and overflow, I I think it doesn't always have to come from more. It
Hmm.
could come from us consuming less and being okay with less so that what we already have becomes overflow. Is that ridiculous?
Overflow, and I say this in the message, overflow is not about your account. Overflow is about your availability. And here's the reason why I say that. Because there's a lot of people who say, God, if you get me to a certain level, I will be, I will live an overflow life. I will be generous. It's a lie. Because if you can be generous with little, you're not going to be generous with a lot. And there's a law, a spiritual law at work there.
Yeah.
There's a spiritual law at work there. So if who the person who is generous or who is faithful with a little, then I can pour more resources in that person because that person can be trusted because they were faithful with a little and now they're being faithful with a lot. Here's the problem. I take us down to one of the things that one of my favorite presidents, Ronald Reagan. All right. Probably not from his politics, but from the perspective of being the great communicator and being a great politician. Both of those
Hmm.
things are great. And he did this. He had this idea of cutting taxes. He grew up in California. He's governor of California. He knew what it meant to be around rich people, and his thinking was if he would cut the taxes, then those people would be able to do more with their money, and it would trickle down. And the
Yeah.
only reason why trickle down economics does not work is because we can't get enough.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, and this is just our human. our human flesh, our human mindset is we can't get enough.
Right.
And as soon as we get enough, quote unquote, we start to walk in circles that make more. And then we can't get enough. And then we start to work in circles that make more. And we can't get enough. We have now, and I'm not talking about distributed wealth here. I'm just making a point here. We have enough. It used to be a time that making $1 million and being a millionaire was a big deal when we were growing up. That's nothing now. So our human nature, unless God, the Holy Spirit, gets a hold of us and really gets a hold of us, we will never have enough. Now, here's my philosophy. I agree with you 100%. Maybe the best way that we live in overflow living is beginning to live on less and being faithful in small things so
Mm,
that God can bless us and greater thing. Here's the deal. Even the blessing, we like to think the blessing always has to be about money.
right.
And he blesses us with resources. He blesses us with empowerment. He blesses us with so many different ways as we are a blessing to those around us. And the other thing I want to say, your greatest resource flowing out of your life may have nothing to do at all with money.
Right.
When we talk about this, we got to put it in that my greatest resource, Mother Teresa, doesn't have a dime to her name. Her greatest resource is going to the streets and the slums of Calcutta and
Yeah.
pouring out the
Kindness.
love of God. And
Yeah.
because she poured out the love of God, then God was able to pour into her, and people were giving her money and resources and coming there and being joining her missions and coming there and serving because she poured out what she had, which was love, unconditional love. Because here's the deal, I'm throwing up. I'm just going to tell you, I'm throwing up. That's just my physical reaction to being in situations like that. Even in my own here in the West, I remember my dad was dying, and my dad was dying of cancer and had all kinds of things that he was dealing with. He had bladder cancer. My brother was great. My older brother was great. It didn't impact him physically or whatever. I was throwing up. So I'm just saying she gave what God had poured into her, and she gave it away willingly, and God was able to continue to pour into her. But I would venture to say she never had a whole bunch of cars or houses
Right.
or anything like that because and when God poured the resource into her life, she kept on letting it spill over. In fact,
Yeah.
a lot of people like this end up penniless.
Yeah.
But they also are people after God's own heart.
Right. But most people don't want that. They're like, I want to be after God's heart, but I don't want to be penniless. I don't want to live
Yeah.
that way. But there's a paradigm shift in your heart where you're like, you just don't think that way, you don't care. Because your desire is not for those things. And I think that we talked about this a couple of sessions ago or series ago about, if you seek God with your whole heart, you'll find him.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, that's the difference in fully committed seeking, where it's like, I've traded everything to pursue God. So I get what I get.
Let me say this too, because I talked about this probably the week before last week. The only I don't want to say caveat because it's not a caveat. I just want to remind people, as we talked about the week before last, that God can take something and bless you with it so that you can be a blessing,
Yeah,
not just
sure.
money. It can be houses, it can be cars. The question is not what's in it for me, but what are you going to do through me with it?
Right.
And so God, when something happens, if I get a house, if I get a car, if I get a promotion, if I get a whatever, not okay, God, what's in it for me? How are you going to bless me? How are you going to bless my family? No, God, how might you use this to make me a blessing to people all around me? And I think that's a really important question. It's not that you never ask the question, God, what are you doing in my situation? The first question is, okay, God, I'm a steward and not an owner. It belongs to you. Kelly. That is the key to everything that we've talked about. I'm not a steward. I'm not an owner. I'm a steward. It belongs to you. So my first question shouldn't be what's in it for me. My first question should be what are you going to do through me with this? Now, here's the problem with that. That takes a whole utter heart and life change. My camera is having a hard time
Your
focusing.
camera work is so dramatic. I love it.
And
It's like, wait a minute. Bah, bah, bah.
it's being stupid because there's
I
no
feel like
reason for it
EF
to
Hutton
do
is
that.
talking right now because it zooms in like, yes, next.
And you know what the deal? The AI is not working because I was making a moment where it should have zoomed right in and didn't. It
Yeah.
zoomed out.
Well,
So
it probably knows that you're not a fan of it.
that's
It's
a
like you
lot, but
keep.
that's a lifestyle. That's a lifestyle and surrender. So much of what we talk about is about
Mm,
surrender. I don't. But here's my flat out statement. And so you're listening, folks. Challenge me on it. We don't believe in stewardship.
yeah, we don't believe in surrender either.
Well, and they're both the same thing, right?
Yeah.
We don't believe in
I,
stewardship. We believe, and I own this, God, and I'm going to break you off a piece if you're good to me. I'm going to
I
break you off a piece if I agree with you asking me to do it for. I'm going to
yeah.
break you off a piece if it works with my mentality and what I believe about my politics. I'm going to break you off a piece if it agrees with this. That's not stewardship.
I
That's
mean,
ownership.
I feel like if I could, be the person that it's even more offensive than you, I'd say that our natures, this is when we're the most like Satan, because he does the same thing. I mean, Satan, it's funny because we paint Satan with this like Lucifer with this brush, like, oh, I would never do anything like that. You actually we do it every day. I mean,
Yep.
the exact same concupiscence that he has fallen prey to, we do the same thing. The but the reality
When you get a PhD, you gotta show it off somewhere.
the reality is, yeah, you should show it in your student loans, and which I can really feel that Steven talking about that student loan. I'm like, I got you, bro. I know exactly what that
Mhm.
feels like. 50K. I I was like, but the thing is, like, this
So
is
Stephen Wolf, if you're listening, you can help Kelly with his student loans and help him get to a place of being freer.
actually
Stephen
Steven. I just
or
love talking
Jeff,
to
if you're
Steven.
listening.
Actually, yeah, Steven's he's cool, man. I actually am. I made a move today based on the what the listening today, and my heart was pricked on something. So I moved what I had considered savings, and I paid off a car note.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was like, why am I paying interest on the car note when and then I'm not making more interest than I'm paying on the car. So what am I doing? So I just went ahead and paid it off, and that way I can take that money and move it to something else, and be more liquid and be less tied to things. But anyway, the point that I
If
was
you wouldn't have
making.
gotten into that cryptocurrency when I told you to get out, you wouldn't have these issues.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to see where it says my lifetime earnings? That's a green number, not a red one, by the way. So
Uh,
yeah, say what you
um,
will. Some of your friends may have fallen on their face, but not this guy. Um, Nonetheless, the point that I was making was that we share so much of that nature with Lucifer himself. And I'm not trying to like be a jerk saying that, but I want us to understand the seriousness of it, because I do think that on the outside, like we want, this is when you talked about the whited sepulchres, right? And like the dead man's bones. On the outside, we want to appear like, yeah, God, I'll do whatever you want me to do. But on the inside, first off, we're wringing our hands saying, please don't ask me to give up. Please don't ask me to live like Mother Teresa. Please don't ask me to do those things. But God, God's not going to, I don't think he asks us to do it, James. It is a process of submission where we just become that way. And so God's never going to walk up and say, "Hey, John, here's what I want you to do. I want you to sell all your stuff and do those things." I I mean, maybe he will, but he did with me. I guess that is true, but there was a lot of work that went on before that, which
yeah.
was being reminded of, you said that you would be radically generous. You said that you would be radically obedient. You said those things. What did you mean when you said that? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, I get it. And so this is a really a fundamental character thing, a spiritual character issue more than another quiver in our, box of arrows on our back. You know what I'm saying? Like this is
Yeah.
it's more than that. It's like, you always talk about Financial Peace University and it's a good program and all that. Like there's all kinds of great programs, but all of those are programs that don't address the underlying symptom, which is we fundamentally don't want to fully submit everything to the ownership of God and fully understand what stewardship really means. Consequently, we keep doing things demonstrably that look like we do, but when the rubber meets the road, I mean, and who wouldn't? You look into the face of your child and your family and you say, I want to make sure you're okay when I'm gone. I want to make sure that you have food to eat every month. But God seems to keep saying, who are you to feed them? Is it not
Well,
my responsibility?
100%. We'll wrap with this. 100%. That's a trust issue. One of the things that you know, anybody that knows me knows that I have a son that has special needs. And one of the things that Rose and I constantly talk about is a trust, right? And how we're going to have a trust set up so he can be taken care of for the rest of his life. And there are days when God reminds me of when he was 3 years old. And God said to me, James, take your son, the son that you love, and take him up on the mountain. And there, I want you to leave him there. I want you to entrust him to me. And my problem with stewardship versus ownership is I keep on taking him off the altar of sacrifice, and if I'm
Right.
not careful, I keep on taking me off the altar of sacrifice. And so someone said the other day that we never really wrap these things really well. So in this session, I think we could wrap it up by saying this: you have to ask yourself, and we have to ask ourselves, do we really believe in the submission that allows stewardship to happen in our lives? Do we really believe that we are going to submit our future, that we're going to submit our fear, that we're going to submit our lifestyles, our calling? Will we really surrender those things and then take our position as stewards so that God can freely flow through us? And I believe that is a huge hiccup for the church. I believe we
Yeah.
talk more about stewardship when it's someone else's money.
Yeah, of
People
course.
will say, well, are we being good stewards of the church money? Are we being good stewards of this or this? And we can go on and on and on. When someone else's money, we want stewardship. With
Yeah.
our money, by the very fact that we say our money, we want to own it. What if it is, God, I want to be a good steward of your money, your resources?
Mm.
Because as I've said many times, I don't even have control over the next breath.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? Well, my closing statement to wrap it up here is this: overflow comes from two things. It can be more of something, or it can be the lesser need of something.
Yeah.
There's two ways to improve gas mileage. You can buy more, or two ways to handle fuel economy. You can get more gas, or you can buy a car that uses less gas. There's two ways to do it. Either I'm going to pump more gas, I'm going to get more gas and have it on hand, or I'm going to get a car that requires less. Both of them effectuate basically the same thing. You're going to have overflow. I hope you get the point of that. But the point I'm trying to make is maybe instead of consistently asking God for more so that there can be overflow, pray for less. Pray for the need of less so that what you already have becomes overflow.
Yeah.
That's just a thought.
And that sounded like a Tesla ad to me because I keep on looking at the prices at 359 and keep on saying, well, it's not costing me 359.
Oh gosh, it's up to let's see, 850 here.
Nice.
So
So
good for you.
perspective, folks, perspective, 850 versus 359.
Yeah, boo hoo. And that's even if the station has gas. Most of them are closing because we don't have enough fuel.
Yep.
Anyway, we can deal with that later.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you on Friday to wrap this up. and it will be wrapped up in a nice, neat bow for those of you who require such. And for those of you free thinkers like the rest of us, it'll be fun.
Yes.
See you on
But
Friday.
for those owners who need things wrapped up tight versus us stewardship people who are free flow thinkers.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody can be genus level thinkers. It's okay. The world needs people that dig ditches also. It's important. All
Ouch.
right.
See you guys on Friday.
That's a great quote from a movie. All right. See you Friday.